Everybody. Apparently I'm sitting because when I stand, I'm above the screen.
Zooming out for us.
I've never been so tall before. It's very
Perfect.
exciting. Okay, so we are ready to get started. Thank you so much for joining us for this session on building inclusive democracy in uncertain times. We certainly live in one of those uncertain moments, right? Can I get an amen to that? It is very uncertain. And I just want to start with introductions. My name's Stephen Donahoe. I use he, him pronouns. And I lead FCNL's development work and have been at FCNL remarkably for 16 years. I started as a program assistant. And I want to start with a story because we're going to be coming back a lot during this session to our stories, and not Garrett and my story, but your stories as a way of connecting with others. So I want to tell you a quick story from me. So were people on the call before the election with Diane Randall and Emily Province, couple people. So one of the things they said was, no matter what happens at the election, in order to prevent election violence, call someone or reach out to somebody who voted the opposite of how you voted after the election. And I, thank goodness, FCNL had the day off after the election to process and kind of reflect. I went on this run. I ran through this park, which was beautiful. And as I was running, I thought about that. Who am I going to contact? And I realized that my nephew lost his job several months ago, and I hadn't contacted my nephew, partly because I had this mental block, because I knew that we were very opposed politically. And I couldn't really break that block. I didn't even know that I hadn't really reached out to him. I hadn't thought of that consciously. So I reached out to him. I texted him from the middle of my run, and just to check in on him. And how you doing? How's the job search going? All of that. And then he said, how are you? And I asked him another question about his girlfriend and trying to defer how I am because I was worried he would not care that I'm really hurting about the election results. And so finally, he asked again, how are you? And I said, well, I'm not doing well. It's been with the election, it's really hard for me. And he said, well, thanks for sharing that. I think it's going to be okay, which of course he does. But it was really nice to have. That was the end of the conversation. It was very brief. But for me, it was an opening to now I have a line of dialogue with him where I know that we can talk about this. And we hadn't in a long time, many years actually. So that's my intro setting for building inclusive democracy. I'm going to turn it over to Garrett to introduce himself and tell a story of his own.
Hello, everyone. My name is Garrett Simmons. I'm currently a student at Wilmington College in Ohio, and I was a member of last year's Advocacy Corps. But I've been doing this bridge building work for a little bit now. It started with a group many of you may be familiar with called Braver Angels. I was fortunate enough to go with several folks from FCNL to one of their national conventions in Gettysburg. We had a great time. And from that, I kept in contact with several FCNL folks, and they were very liberal. And I come from a very rural, small town in Ohio called Frankfort. Lots of farmers that are very conservative. And we were talking about this bridge building work and thought, what if we got these two groups together and saw if there was any kind of common ground? And we'll show some footage from that later. But there was a surprising amount. Everyone was very cordial, very happy to meet with each other. It was my two worlds colliding into something beautiful. And I was asked to come help with this weekend. I was fortunate enough to work with FCNL over the summer in various bridge building roles, helping to develop a few things that we'll get into. But I'm excited. I know there are a lot of folks who are not feeling the best after the election, and that's more than fair. But now is the time for action, and hopefully we can help you find out how to do that.
Thanks, Garrett. Really, really glad you're here to do this work. So we want to reflect a little bit on what brings you here today. So I I don't think we'll have time to share, but over the next few minutes, just think about, why are you here? Why did you choose to come to a session about building inclusive democracy? Did you know that we would be talking about bridging divides? Is that something that you've done in your work? Who are the people who you would think about reaching out to in thinking about the other side of a political position that you take? So think about that for yourself, and maybe if we get time throughout the session, we'll share along those topics. We can go to the next slide. Perhaps. Ah,
All right, perfect. First, I'd like to point out, pictured here is me with several folks from FCNL. Many of you might know them. We have Bobby, Juan, and Sarah there in my hometown of Frankfurt after our listening tour. And now we're going to get into what it means to bridge divides. It's kind of easier to explain what it's not as opposed to explaining what it is. It's not trying to go into a situation and argue why you're right. And even if you're peaceful about it, try to explain to the other person why your ideas are the correct ones. And you're really not trying to convince them and win in this situation. It's an internal process that starts with you. You have to go into these situations willing to listen and wanting to understand. It's not enough just to listen with our ears to what the other person has to say. We want to see where they're coming from, because ultimately we all believe the things we believe for a very specific reason. That's your story. Everyone here shared stories through lobby visits yesterday, and folks on the other side of the aisle have these stories too for why they feel this way, and it's an important thing to listen to them. We can move to the next slide if you'd like.
yeah. Next slide, please.
Perfect. So, first, we have to identify where you stand. If you don't have a stance on an issue, you probably can't build a bridge there. I feel like everyone in here is pretty firm in a lot of their stances.
That's an understatement, I think, Garrett.
Yeah. So that part shouldn't be a problem. But then you have to find someone who disagrees with you. Maybe this is easy. Maybe you have several friends who are more conservative or more liberal than you. I know I do at Wilmington College, lots of Aggie friends, lots of humanities majors. And this can be hard because you also have to find someone who's not openly hostile towards you. So the second step is identifying that person. And then when you enter the conversation, set some ground rules. Say, listen, we're both going to go into this with an air of respect. I'm not going to interrupt you. You're not going to interrupt me. I'm not going to try and chase you down with a bunch of leading questions and throw a bunch of statistics at you. I'm going to explain why I feel this way, and hopefully that helps you understand me a little better. And then you're going to do the same. And this will help us to humanize ourselves with each other. That is a crucial aspect of this. I can't come in appearing as an other, and I can't view the other person as an other. We're all people, and we have to see each other as such. Next slide, please. Okay, so as I was saying before, we really have to listen to the other parties, seeking understanding, not a debate. This is one critique that I have had with Braver Angels at times. Sometimes it feels like people are there just to try and convince you to come over to their side, come be a red or come be a blue. That's not what this is. Ultimately, we hope to establish friendships and connections out of this, not just a one-on-one conversation. And you guys should have absolutely no problem sharing your stories. Many of you do it on a weekly basis through various programs like advocacy teams. But that piece is really important. You have to know why you care about an issue. So take some time, develop that, write it down as we do with our stories before we go lobby, and know that the other person is putting in that same kind of thought and effort. And then ultimately, once you've both told your stories, it's time to find some common ground. This can be very minor. It can be difficult, though. Sometimes Steven's going to have a completely opposite opinion to myself, and it's going to feel like there's nothing we can agree on. But we have to. We have to. Even if it's minor.
We're both from Ohio.
We are both from Ohio.
That's good.
That's
a
good
good
start.
place.
We're connected there. And we're going to try a little bit of this. Next slide, please. So why does this matter? Obviously, a lot of people here are upset and unsatisfied with the results of the elections. But ultimately, we cannot change their outcome. Republicans are going to have control of the White House, the House, and the Senate. And it's plain to see that they don't always agree, and there are also some liberals who don't always agree with FCNL issues. We can't hunker down for the next 2 years waiting for new members of Congress. There are people that need this legislation passed today, tomorrow, within a year. They can't wait, so neither can we. If you voted for Harris, there are around 75 million Americans who disagree with you. Bare minimum. That's not a small number. We can't just isolate ourselves in the, I think it was 65 million that did vote in favor of Harris. We still have to work to accomplish our goals, even in this trying time. We cannot give up. Next slide, please. So, what we're going to do is we're going to practice. Stephen, I'm going to let you take over here for a minute. Before I do, there's a little structure we're going to impose in here. So speaking to the folks in the room, what we're going to end up doing is splitting into groups of 3. There will be a statement up somewhere or said. You will either be in favor, or you disagree, or you're going to moderate this discussion and make sure that it stays respectful. And we'll take about 10 minutes to do that, but I think Stephen has a better grasp of what might divide people internally at FCNL.
Only from 16 years of working here have I come to see some of the disagreements that we have. And I also want to speak to the Zoom room. So folks on Zoom, I'm going to go outside this room with you, and we're going to do a different, we're going to do this differently. We're all going to be in a breakout room, and we're going to have one person volunteer to be the agree, one person the disagree, and one person the moderator to do it collectively and to reflect on that. And then if we get time, we'll practice with another set of volunteers. So 2 different processes, one process for the in-person, one process for the Zoom folks. But either way, the key is know where you stand on the issue, realize you have an agree, a disagree, and a moderator. So the issue that we thought might have some sense of division among people in the audience is around nuclear energy. And I know for FCNL, in our policy and there are, start with the statement, nuclear energy should be expanded now. I hear an opposition already, I bet. Okay, so can we see the Zoom room? Can we open it up so we can see the Zoom on the screen? I don't know. So again, the statement is nuclear energy should be expanded now. So I'd love to see a show of hands who agrees that nuclear energy should be expanded now. Couple people, 3 people. That's not quite enough, is it?
Not quite.
Okay, well, okay, so let's see.
Hold on high. I see some more hands going up. People.
You don't have to be ashamed. This is actually a real position that many people have. Nuclear energy should be expanded now. Okay. So and who's opposed? Stands opposed to nuclear energy should be expanded now. Okay. still seems like we're about 2/3, 1/3, doesn't it?
Yeah, so what we could do is we could take half of the opposed and make them our moderators.
Oh, okay, good idea.
Yeah.
Great.
Woo.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay. And online folks, can I see your votes again? Nuke, I just want to make sure it falls in about the same. So who says nuclear energy should be expanded now? Raise your hand. Okay. And then who says no, nuclear energy should not be expanded now? I think we're about the same situation. Okay, good. I think we're in a good place. So clearly a divisive topic. We succeeded in talking about a divisive topic. Good job. And we know that people of different perspectives come from those from very deeply held reasons. And we're gonna practice this dialogue together.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna grab my laptop and go outside, turn off my computer or my microphone and go out there and work with the Zoom room. And I'll see you, you're gonna stay in here and I'll see you in 10 minutes?
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Have fun.
Yep. All right, so y'all are stuck with me now. So could I have my folks who agreed with the statement raise your hand? All right. What I need each of you to do is find 2 people who currently have their hands down. Michael, I'm going to call you out. Don't just stay at your table. Go find some other people. One of those people is going to be a moderator, making sure that this conversation stays respectful. People aren't talking out of turn. The other person will be the opposition. So the way this will work, you'll sit down, you'll agree on some ground rules. I've already said a couple of them out there about not talking out of turn, but whatever you want within your little micro groups. We'll say that the person opposed to this statement gets 5 minutes to speak, tell their story, or and then those last 4 minutes will be used for asking questions, really trying to understand the other person's point of view. I know that was complicated. I'm going to go ahead and bring everyone back in. I hope you've been having good conversations. Once you've finished, please raise your hand. Okay, cool. So you've had a chance to talk to each other. We're going to give folks a minute to share some of the common ground, some of the things they talked through. We'll hear from a couple people in here as well as online, and we'll start online.
Yes, I know there was some really good common ground forming online, and I wonder if anybody would be interested in sharing what that experience was like and the common ground steps you started talking about. And if nobody volunteers, I'm going to call on John.
We have Sue Ellen.
Oh, good.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I cannot access gallery view for some reason. So all I can see is the PowerPoint. So I'm sorry for that. But I want to say that I grew up in Eastern Washington State in a real lefty family. We were always alone in our political beliefs. I've had these kind of discussions my entire life, including with all my extended family. And it's not just establishing common ground, but my concern is it's establishing common ground at the beginning of the conversation. If you come out advocating your point at the beginning and then later on acknowledge the other, that you may have common ground over here, you have lost the person. Timing, just like timing in therapy counts a lot, timing in this is crucial. You must establish common ground at the beginning. We also have to be pretty careful about, depending on who we're talking to, but we saw differences in the 75 million who didn't vote Harris. we saw differences in educational backgrounds, I believe. And though I could be misremembering the different analyses I've been reading, we need to be very careful about trotting out academic credentials.
Thank you.
Because I'll just say, the CNN quote of someone who voted for Trump are, "I'd rather vote for crazy than people who preach at me and look down on me."
Thank you
And
for sharing that.
that has permeated
Yeah,
the message our kind of people give.
those are good reminders. Thank you very much for those reminders and your story of your own family and those conversations. John, I wonder, we didn't see in the room your comment in the chat. Would you be willing to share your comment in the chat?
Yeah, there were at least a couple of areas of common ground that we didn't really get a chance to kind of agree on, but that got mentioned. I think one of them was that the disposal of nuclear waste is a huge problem at this time. Another one is that there is a need to update and upgrade our electrical infrastructure in this country, no matter what kind of energy system we have. At least those are the two that kind of come to mind. Stephen, you might have something else that you noticed.
You got what I was thinking. So thank you, John, for sharing that. And for the people in the room, John was he was arguing one of the points very well about in support of nuclear power. And then Martha, how did I lose your last name, Martha? I'm sorry. And I don't even see you in this room now. Anyway, Martha did a fantastic job online advocating against. And Steve was our moderator. So over to you. What happened in the room?
Well, I can't really speak as to that. I was sitting up here watching the time. So I invite some of you to raise your hands and share your experience. Right over here.
Just give us 1 second. Here, be a microphone. Would you mind standing up?
Probably the most pronounced piece of common ground was likewise both speaking towards the need for essentially a green energy transition and understanding that we are currently dealing with disastrous externalities for the power grid as it is currently operating. One point that was shared, and coal production as being an integral component of our power grid was a big part of that. One piece of common ground, the unifying concern here is what is actually done with radioactive materials once they have been produced. But one point that we did find some salience around was that there's fissile isotopes of uranium that are liberated in the burning of coal at the industrial scale in which it is currently operating within in the global economy and global power grid, and that this is whether we can't. Sorry, give me one more. We still engage with these concerns of the health effects of radioactive waste, whether or not we're involved in nuclear fission itself, because this is just the nature of coal production. It is extremely dirty, and there is this immediate need for a green energy transition. Anything you'd like to add?
One point that I was told by a friend of mine who's been very active in the Fukushima issue is that apparently there are already nuclear materials, I guess, that are in the environment on the East Coast. And her feeling was that was a result of the use of the nuclear plants. One of the things that was striking to me was the fact that coal emits those things, and it's very possible that they're coming from the ground on coal. And I think we were in agreement that that was something that was really worth investigating. The other thing, everybody agreed that we need to be thinking about a different form of energy than coal.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. We have time for one more quick share right over here.
Hi, I'm Connor. I'm from the ancestral homelands of the Shasta, Tacoma, Lagawa people, otherwise known as Southern Oregon. Becca and I had a really good conversation about what nuclear energy might be used for. One of the concerns was that, like in New York, they might use it to power AI instead of actually using it to help other people. And I brought up the point that we can't blame a tool for how it's used. It's a tool that we have access to that we should be investigating and looking into. One of the things that I know is on my mind a lot is with the indigenous tribes in Oregon, we've been pulling out dams in order to return the salmon. And there's been a concern about how much Oregon relies on our hydroelectricity and what do we do when we take out those dams. And a lot of the Native folks that I've talked to have been a proponent of nuclear energy specifically because of that. And that was a point that I think that Becca took really well, and that was something that we could agree that that is a concern, is that when we're looking at green energy, we need to be looking at the externalities of the energy and how they impact communities that maybe we don't necessarily think about all the time regardless. Yeah, do you want the microphone back?
Awesome. Thank you all so much for sharing. Give yourselves a round of applause. This is not an easy thing to do. All right, if we could move on.
To the slideshow. There we are. I bet we're gonna see it. There you go.
All right. So part of the bridge building that I experienced took place in Southern Ohio between Chillicothe, Dayton, and Wilmington. And we were able to document a little bit about that. We'd like to show you a short video we came up with.
There isn't sound in the room. So might have to go online to watch the video online.
Can't hear it online either, I don't think.
Yeah.
Olivia is saying might need to reshare it and share with computer audio. Gosh, I love technology.
It's
don't
so
you?
great. Yes.
So good.
It works at the best times.
Yeah, it's the best. We should put it in charge of everything.
Yes, everything.
All right, we're not going to get the video started yet. So why don't you describe the listening tours, then we'll do the video. So if you're online and you're able to watch the video, we're not getting it here in the room. So Tim and Krista, if you can work on the tech side here and get the video, or we may be able to get it showing in the room. Tech folks, I don't know if you have access to it. I think that's happening. So we'll describe it and then we'll watch it in just a few minutes.
Yeah. So the listening tour is kind of the name for the model that we use in Southern Ohio. I know FCNL has been using tools like this for quite a while, but now it's finally in a step-by-step guide online for you to access, and it looks great. I didn't do the graphic design portion of it. It would have been terrible. But I helped to work on the contents of the tour itself. It's a very interactive piece that you can go and use in your community to accomplish a couple of things. First, it can help you. Oh, I hear the sound of the video now.
That's good. So in just a minute, we'll be ready for it to start. That's fantastic.
This tour is, as I said, interactive, community-based. One of the things it'll allow you to do is gather stories for your lobby visits from people in your community. I know oftentimes folks come in with issues that they might not have a lot of experience with, but people they know do. This is a great way to gather those kinds of stories and make your advocacy better. These tours take place in places that are very comfortable for the folks you're interviewing. So say it's a farmer's land, you're going to meet him on his farm, you're talking with a faith leader, you meet them in their place of worship, things of that nature. And I'm sorry, I don't have my slide in front of me while we're getting the video set up, so I'm blanking a little bit. But I'll take a pause and we'll watch the video.
I understand extremes, but those are the people that sometimes make it very difficult to get anything fixed.
I always thought of us as a rather conservative state traditionally. That whole conservative image is going to go by the wayside very quickly. I think it already is, because we're going to be bringing people in from California and high-tech educated people that tend to be really liberal.
About 20 years ago, I thought I was a little bit leaning more liberal. But as time has gone, I registered as a Republican as a senior in high school, because that's what my family was, which is typical, I think. Went through college, first 8 or 10 years afterwards, and I taught in Greenfield, which is conservative. But I thought, I kind of lean towards the middle, and maybe leaning a little bit on the left side or liberal side. But since then, probably not extreme by any, but I'm a little bit more on the conservative side.
And it really worries me that people are all wrapped up in their phones and their own personal lives, and they're not realizing what's going on out there.
As a family, we talk about politics a lot just because we're kind of politically oriented. That's just how we are. It can be a touchy situation if you got a Democrat and a Republican, depending on how hardcore they are on each side of it. But I don't know. I guess myself personally, I'm usually pretty open-minded to it, so I like to hear all sides.
First of all, I think we've got to get back to where we can have a conversation. I think unfortunately, social media has made it that I can sit over here in my echo chamber and everybody tells me what I'm saying is great.
So I guess I kind of fit. But this is probably the most politics I've talked with a person in 10 years, other than my family. But my son married a Democrat.
What's that been like?
It's been good. It's been fine. And her family is liberal, but that's fine. She married a Republican or married a conservative, so that's okay.
Well, I got to know these women really, really well. They're like sisters. So now we do a Bible study together, and we just get together we try to do it about once a month, and we just go out to eat. And then sometimes they always know they can come to the farm, and we'll just sit on the farmhouse porch, and we will just sit there and try to solve the world's problems.
Get rid of it. Get rid of the political the parties. Just be who you are. I mean, I don't think there's one person out there that can sit there and say, as a Republican or Democrat, I follow this. There's no one. There can't be.
We've got to be able to come back to sitting at a table and realize I may difference from you in an opinion, but that doesn't mean that I have ill will towards you or anything from that perspective.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, one thing I learned from that video, Garrett, is that outfits matter, because you were wearing a very different outfit in that video.
Yes.
And you fit in the farm community, and you fit in here. Good job. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it kind of catching me off guard with that. That wasn't in the practice.
No, it wasn't.
But yeah, if we could move on to my last slide about listening tours.
Like, stay on your toes.
Yeah. And I'll pass it back over to Stephen then.
Can we go to the next slide?
Nope, not quite.
Before. It was before the video.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, perfect. So as I was saying, listening tours are active. You're meeting people in their space. They're issue specific. So across all your meetings, across the tour, you want to focus on the same issue, whether that be access to food in the community, lack of education, things of that nature. You want to stay on track. And as I was saying, this is great for gathering stories, but also building a coalition. Your advocacy will be stronger if you bring both Democrats and Republicans to the table, even though that might seem scary at times. And this can also be a catalyst for community change. I know after we had this tour in Chillicothe, we realized that even a lot of people in my hometown are very divided. So we started having town halls just to get everyone's sides of the story on issues. And it's been great ever since. And if you want to access this resource, and you have your phone on you, you can scan the QR code here. I will also be here for the rest of the day and can answer any more questions about it. But with that, I will pass it back over to Stephen.
Thanks, Garrett. And that resource from this QR code is very helpful. Garrett and others this summer spent a lot of time putting that together. So please check it out. Okay, we can go forward to spreading FCNL's message in your community. So the theme of building inclusive democracy. I believe deeply in the work that we've been talking about with Garrett here in terms of bridging divides as part of the core of what we need to do to build inclusive democracy. The other piece that we're going to talk about today is spreading FCNL's message in your community as a way to build inclusive democracy, because we've all seen this weekend, right, what it means to be part of the democratic process. Did folks lobby a couple days ago? Was that yesterday? Yesterday, wow. Who lobbied yesterday? I actually didn't, but lots of people lobbied. You were part of the democratic system. And we know that in this next cycle, this next congressional cycle, we are going to have to be more engaged, not less engaged, because this moment requires democratic participation. And FCNL is a resource that is valuable to me. It's valuable to Garrett, I know. It's valuable to you, or you wouldn't be here today. And I know that there are people in your communities or your networks that would benefit from being connected to FCNL. So there are a few suggestions here, and we're gonna ask for your ideas as well. And then we're gonna practice an elevator pitch as well before we leave today. So the first idea, forward an action alert or any email with FCNL that FCNL sends you. This seems so basic, but an email that a friend forwards you, change the subject line, say, thought of you, whatever it is, the subject line that will actually get them to open the email, because most people don't open their emails. You know that, right? I don't open all of my emails, but the ones that you send me, I open, but not necessarily all the ones from organizations. So change the subject line. What about, so I know right after annual meeting, you're gonna get an email with the highlights of annual meeting and all the great lobbying that we did, and Representative Barbara Lee's comments, the videos of the senators speaking. You're gonna have that resource. You could just send that to a couple people and say, you know, I'm thinking of you. I had a great experience at FCNL's annual meeting. I thought you'd be interested in learning more about this organization. It's a very small step, but it can make a big difference, because they can sign up to get the action alert, and then they're going to get messages from FCNL going forward. Another small, low-level ask, engage your meeting or church. I know many of you have been involved as a meeting contact or a member of the general committee, connecting with people in your congregation already. Or maybe you're not a Quaker and you're part of a different kind of community. Could be another religious community or another community in your town or in your city that might be interested in FCNL. And as Garrett mentioned, in terms of lobbying, increasing the effectiveness of your advocacy by partnering with someone from a different political party, It's true of other people in your community as well. If you bring another group of folks into your advocacy, that's going to make it more effective as well. So again, basic suggestion, but has incredible power. The other is a little bit higher lift, but it's based in community, right? We absolutely know that the only way we're going to get through these next couple of years is if we rely on each other and we build community together. So what about hosting a dinner party at your house and watching an FCNL event? Could be a live event, could be one of the speeches that you've heard. We're going to upload them to our YouTube channel. You could watch that together. Say, I saw this great presentation at FCNL, and I think you'd be interested, and get 6 or 7 people together and have dinner. Could be a potluck, and show the video, or for a live event. Technology, we've seen how well it works today. You can be on Zoom together and be part of the event from your home. Actually, I don't know, some folks have seen that Whittier Friends Meeting is participating in annual meeting from Whittier, California. Whittier Friends Church. That's a wonderful opportunity because they've got more people than they could fly to Washington participating. That's the kind of thing you can do in your home. You as a messenger for people in your community is so much more powerful than one of us or an FCNL staff member coming, because people know you and trust you already, right? These are your friends. These are your family members. They know that you have like concerns. And so I think that can be really powerful. One story from my experience, soon after Diane Randall, who was right there, started as General Secretary at FCNL, we asked a supporter in New York to host a party at her house and to invite people to come who she thought could donate to FCNL. And she invited a bunch of people. We also invited other people. It was a great event. Beautiful, beautiful apartment. Remember, Diane? Yes, it's hard to forget. But one person that was invited didn't come, but started donating $5,000 a year. And they have been faithful $5,000 a year donors since then, just from getting the invite to come to their house. It's an incredible opportunity. And that goes to the asking a friend to give to FCNL. If you've never done it, fundraising is relationship building. It is not that scary. It's way less scary than lobbying. And right, Megan knows, having done both a lot. And it's a wonderful opportunity to help people put their faith into action, right? It's helping people see that if resources, financial resources, something that they have, you can invite them to join with you as a donor to FCNL. And they'll feel good about it, you'll feel good about it, and FCNL will be better for it and more able to accomplish our mission. So now I want to give everybody, first I'm going to go to the online audience for your ideas. What is one idea you have for spreading FCNL's message in your community online? I hope they're still there.
Maybe not.
Oh, they're there.
Are.
Yay. And I see, let's see. Great. Sue Ellen.
Well, our Quaker meeting is very involved. We're in Northern California, is very involved with an interfaith group. So we could, they might be interested in some of the materials and those kind of things.
I love that idea. Thank you for sharing that. And
we also have a college campus. We're a college town. And looking for a student club that would maybe sponsor an event.
Awesome.
Host an event, whatever.
Garrett is a prime example of college student who has been a great blessing to FCNL and to his college by getting involved in FCNL and getting FCNL more connected to Wilmington College in Ohio, right? Yep. So that's a great idea. Thank you, Sue Ellen, for sharing. What about in the room? What are your ideas? Oh, wow, one right away. Do we have a mic runner still? Sorry that I didn't ask. Right in the front here in yellow vest.
You wouldn't mind standing up.
All right, I'm standing up and my name is Catherine Harting. I'm from the Eastern Shore of Maryland. And this is my first Quaker meeting, annual meeting, since I've actually become a member of being a Quaker. So it's very exciting for me to be here now, especially since the election went so far wrong. But, but what I wanted to suggest was what I'd like to do is leave here with a whole bunch of the bumper stickers that say, love thy neighbor, no exceptions. So that I have them, so that I can give them away freely to people of whatever faith, because that's a message that really needs to be heard right now. And they teach you in marketing that if you can just get your foot in the door, if you can get them to put a bumper sticker on, that's a step one, and then you can come after them later and do so. Okay, how can I put it in your yard, and then can I hang it over your front door? But if you've softened them up, so I would like if somebody will help me figure out how to take home a bunch of bumper stickers.
We can work with you on that. That's
Thank you.
great. Thank you,
Thank you.
Kat,
Mhm.
and welcome to FCNL's annual meeting. We're so glad you're here. I saw another hand here, and then we'll move on. In the blue hat.
Hi, Gary Miller from Kansas City, also my first. We have invited a friend with no association with Quakerism at all to join us for various Zoom or lobby events. It's low impact, pick a subject that they care about and invite them to join the meeting. They can be a silent face on the Zoom call, another constituent. The important thing is that they would be a constituent, easy way to get somebody involved.
That's great. Thank you so much and welcome. We're glad you're here with us. Thank you for that idea. Excellent. Well, we could talk for many hours about ideas to spread FCNL's message in your community because you all are a creative bunch and I know you've been working at this in different ways. But I want to turn to the next slide, which is around developing your pitch, your elevator pitch. Because we need to, one thing that we've actually struggled with at FCNL is it's such a complicated organization. You know, we've got a C4, we've got a C-Suite, which is a lobbying organization and an education organization. Oh, and we've got Friends Place. We've got a myriad of issues we work on. So we want to help you develop over the next 10 or so minutes your elevator pitch. So we want to start with these questions of describing FCNL in a sentence. So I need a volunteer. We'll need the mics for this on an ongoing basis. So we need volunteer. Who would like to, in the room, who would like to describe FCNL in one sentence? How would you describe FCNL? Yes.
I have to do this pretty frequently because I'll just mention FCNL and then realize people don't know what I'm talking about. So it usually goes, the Friends Committee on National Legislation is a Quaker lobby in the public interest. And it's a really nice, tidy sentence, but nobody knows what that means. And so then it's a lot of sentences after that to explain what lobby is, that it's nonpartisan, and all the other cool highlights. That's the one sentence.
Excellent. I love it. Round of applause. That was very good. Thank you. Anybody else have a one sentence? And if there's somebody online, please unmute him and tell me. I can't see you right now. But we've got here in the front, and then we'll go to online if you've online folks get ready.
Thank you. Scott Duncan from Wycomico River Friends meeting. I usually say that it's a Quaker lobbying organization lobbying on peace and social justice issues.
Thank you. Great, excellent. Quaker lobbying organization working on peace and social justice issues. Excellent. Okay, anybody online have a one sentence description of FCNL? Steve, thank you.
You're welcome. Both of those are fabulous, but I like to add that it's the oldest faith-based lobbying organization in DC, especially when I'm talking to a faithful person.
Thank you. That's perfect. Yeah, that's a really good point. Excellent. So we've got a range of ways of describing FCNL, pretty comprehensive, I think. And the next question is, what motivates you to be involved with FCNL? Again, thinking in a one sentence, because after we go through each of these questions, we're gonna have you create a very short, like 2-minute pitch. So what motivates you to be involved with FCNL? Somebody in the room. Yes, in the back.
Hello, everybody. My name is Fisto. I'm from New Hampshire. Excuse me. I think there's a lot we can say about that. It's not a 2-minute thing, but since I've been involved with FCNL, I think it's I would say it's I see it as a source of a future that I want to see in our communities, in our society. The fact that we have war around the country, we have war around the world, I think this is an opportunity for someone like me to engage in. So FCNL is a solution to the war we have around the world.
Thank you.
That's why I got involved.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. So I really appreciate that description. It's a way to be involved that is working against the war that we see, whether that's in our own communities, the violence, or around the world. Thank you. Another person, I would love to hear from someone in the Zoom room. What motivates you to be involved with FCNL? Kay, welcome.
It's about building relationships across divides.
Excellent. Thank you, Kay. Great. And I see one more person in the Zoom room, Stuart.
I was sold by the spiritual process that is the generator for what FCNL does and doesn't do.
Say that one more time, Stuart. Sorry, we didn't catch it here in the room.
Well, on my first visit to FCNL annual meeting, I was sold by your discernment process.
Discernment process.
You get the whole Quaker world involved.
Thank
you.
And
the Holy Spirit leads the whole thing.
I love that. I love that. Marge, I saw your hand. Would you like to share?
I see FCNL as a powerful, effective way for me to act on my spiritual beliefs and care for people around the world and the world itself.
Thank you for sharing that. It sounds like you've said that before.
Yes.
Yes, I have. Thank you for already being a witness for FCNL in your community and in the world. That's there. We could, again, we only got through 2 of the questions. The 2 other questions I was going to ask are, first intro to FCNL can sometimes be a good part of your elevator pitch. You know, what was your first introduction? Or what was your highlight from this weekend so far? But now I want to go to the next slide and go to practicing. So we are actually going to break up. We're going to take just 5 minutes for the breakout rooms. Hopefully nobody's breaking up today. but the breakout rooms online in groups of 2 or 3 if you want, and then in the room, pair off, maybe groups of 3, and practice your elevator pitch. What would you say if you had 2 minutes? So each person gets 2 minutes to practice their elevator pitch. What would you say to somebody who doesn't know anything about FCNL to help them understand the organization more? So in the Zoom rooms, 5-minute breakout rooms, 2 minutes each sharing. And in here, we're going to time you and give you, will you do the timing? 2 minutes. And then we'll ask you to switch. Okay, ready? Break up into groups and then start sharing.
Maybe we'll get 30-second elevator speeches.
Just need one moment to open the rooms. Thanks for your patience, everyone.
The elevator seems to be stuck. We're with you, Tim. Don't worry about it.
We could practice right now while we wait.
Why not?
Sure, here's a 10-second one. It's the Quaker lobby.
You know, one of the groups that I talk FCNL to is in our own Quaker meeting. And one of the selling points of why we should be involved with FCNL is we can do it as well on our own. We have some very dedicated people with different causes that we advocate for. And we have tried doing some of this without FCNL's help, and we couldn't do as well. The educational benefits, the research that FCNL does on these topics is absolutely invaluable.
Good point.
It's a Quaker lobby that works toward social justice in our laws.
And peace. Yeah. This is Maria. I think we'd like to add that it's nonpartisan and focuses on bringing people from all different perspectives together to work on
Here,
peace and
Stephen,
justice.
go ahead.
I like to talk about FCNL where I don't use the word lobby sometimes, depending on who I'm talking with. So it's my faith groups, and I'm a Quaker group, office in Washington that communicates with members of Congress about important issues. So it's communicate, member of Congress, my faith group are kind of some of the key things that I think help people again connect with me.
It's a fun way to engage my values in democracy with other people.
Oh yeah, and the word fun, that's great.
I see FCNL as a timely, helps me time my actions so that I can be most effective. It helps identify when it would make a difference for me to lobby. And the other thing I do is I often tell short stories about when FCNL has been particularly effective in lobbying. And that seems to inspire people too.
Right. I think it's an opportunity to put your faith into action, your ethics and beliefs in peace and social justice into action.
Or having good conversations.
I just want to bring up something that I've run across. When I use the word Quaker, using a Quaker, it tends to spin off into what is a Quaker. So That's why I like to use the oldest faith-based organization in DC that works for peace and justice.
All right.
I try to.
Remarkably, we have come to the end of that period. Wow. Raise your hand if you're done, or if you can hear me. Good, good, good. Excellent. Great. Thank you all so much. That was really great. I know I heard lots of good conversations out there. And I know on Zoom you didn't do breakout rooms, but you had one big conversation, so that's excellent. So I'd love to get, if we have a mic on it, do we have a mic? Yep, we do. Great. I'd love to hear one elevator pitch. Who's the brave person that wants to share what their elevator pitch was? My gosh, come on, Mark Donovan. Okay. No pressure, but he's clerk of the development committee. Oh.
I'm much more articulate without a microphone.
Too bad.
I usually keep it very short. I think that if you have a 2-minute elevator pitch, you've lost most people within the first 25 or 30 seconds. I also recognize that most elevator pitches happen in the course of a conversation. So the 2 lines I typically use are that FCNL is a Quaker lobby in Washington, D.C., lobbying for on peace and social justice issues. And it is so important to me because in a time when totally overwhelming and like we're powerless, FCNL provides a vehicle for me to feel that I'm doing a part to help move the needle. And that's it.
Thank you. Clearly somebody who's been sharing in their community. Thank you, Mark. Really appreciate that. That was perfect. And the key here, he did 2 things, right? He talked about what the organization is in a way that was understandable, and he shared about his own experience and why it mattered to him. So that blend is such a great combination for an elevator pitch to help people see why they might want to get involved. Well, we're going to go to the next slide, the wrap up. And we have our contact information here, and we're both very happy to take questions from you. It's one more slide, although that's a great fun photo. I had that because that's my best friend Kristen, and I convinced her to donate to FCNL. So anyway, so this is my contact information and Garrett's, and I love this photo, which if we go back just one slide, you'll see the photo. The photo, it says, if you didn't get a chance to see it, it says, love your neighbor who doesn't look like you, think like you, love like you, speak like you, pray like you, vote like you, love your neighbor, no exceptions. And I think that's such a powerful reminder. And that is part of what building inclusive democracy is about, right? It is about loving our neighbor, no exceptions, as Kat mentioned, that sticker, and we will get you stickers. So are there any, we have 5 more minutes. Are there any final questions or comments before we close?
I have one.
We were so brilliant. We stunned you into silence. Oh my gosh, Diane Randall, what do you have to say?
Oh, Diane's.
Thank you, Diane Randall. I live here in Washington, D.C. I'm a former General Secretary here at Friends Committee on National Legislation, so I'm happy to be here and see so many friends. And just thank you, Garrett. And shout out to Wilmington College, which is really a wonderful resource and long-standing connection with FCNL. I just want to say that I love hearing these elevator pitches, and we are at this moment when people are looking. You know, they're looking for what's next and how will I respond to this political moment. And so FCNL offers a way. I mean, some people will find other ways. They may decide to go march in the street, or they may just go to bed for a while, or, who knows? But FCNL offers a way, and you've spoken about that. But I think about, I've heard several people already say, we had more people in our meeting. We had more people coming to visit. This is an opportunity for those new people who may show up in your meeting houses or your churches. Tell them, as Stephen talked about, talk about FCNL. And I think it's just another way people can invest ourselves in this moment, which is so important, because FCNL shows a way to do it that is not harsh. That is actually the kind of kindness that we yearn for and that the world needs.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a quick reflection or shout out, which is another great way that we share our message in hopes that you will help us share our messages through social media. Email was mentioned, and similarly, we are active on emerging platforms and TikTok and Blue Sky, and grappling and floating through sort of the ether that is some of the older social media accounts of Twitter and Facebook, and so
Instagram.
we very active on Instagram. And so just encourage you to not just interact with us, but send us stuff that is coming through your network that was very moving and motivating. We're always trying to keep an eye on how to share these messages and these moments that we have together. So feel free to keep an eye on us on any of the platforms. We love you there.
Thank you, Wesley. And thank you, Diane. We have time for one more final reflection. Yes, you're in the front.
Thanks for ignoring me, fuckers.
I was actually asked to be a process observer, and I was wondering if I could offer some reflections on the things I've observed. And I'll face this way instead. Hi, I'm Megan Fair. I use she, her pronouns. I live in Kentucky, but I'm going to claim Wilmington right now because there's such a Wilmington influence. So way to go. Look out, folks from Ohio are taking over. So as your process observer, I wanted to just take a moment to express deep appreciation for the tech team. I know that there are so many challenges to ensuring that friends feel connected, and I just really want to offer that I saw the effort was made, and that was really great. I also want to express appreciation to our facilitators, especially with starting from a place of sharing their own personal experiences. I think it was a good example of a way to be thoughtful and vulnerable in community, and I would encourage us all to think about how we can do that in the days ahead. I also appreciated the invitation to include our own personal connections to FCNL in our pitches, which I think is really where folks are going to most connect with us and connect with the organization. I would also encourage friends to continue getting to know new people. I will admit that when I sat at this table, I was really excited to see my friend Tom and catch up with Tom. And I'm really thankful for the folks that I had not known who sat with me, and I got to know them a little bit more. I would emphasize the ask me about tabs that are at the registration table so that you can plug in something that brings you joy or that brings you hope right now, and that folks can ask you about it. I do have a gripe that not enough people have asked me about baseball yet. So please fill that one of those out and ask folks about their ask me abouts. I also just want to name that within my group, folks, when we were having those discussions, really listened to each other and really spent time being attentive, which is so important, being present. I know I have an ability to kind of disappear into my brain at some point. And I feel like folks in our group, at least, were able to really stay present, to acknowledge what folks were saying, even if you didn't agree with them. And I would encourage us to continue doing that throughout the weekend. I also know that folks had some hearing challenges in this space. I'm sure we have some limited physical space, but I know that in this large room, hearing was a bit of a challenge, especially while we're masking. So I encourage us to do our best to enunciate and to speak loudly. And then finally, I would encourage folks to say their names when they're speaking. Just a good way for us to get to know you all better. So thank you.
Thank you, Megan, for your service as a process observer. And thank you all so much for coming to this session together. And I hope you'll stick around because our program assistants are going to be facilitating a conversation next. And it's always a highlight of the annual meeting. Thank you, Garrett.
Thank you, Stephen.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.